Cathy lives alone in Atlanta and owns a flower shop. Like every other day, she's on her way to work when a man across the street sitting in a restaurant is watching her closely. Cathy leaves her shop and enters the same restaurant where Robert is seated. She orders her usual meal, and after finishing lunch, she leaves. Robert follows her until she gets into her car, then tails her in his own vehicle. Cathy parks in a lot and heads into a gym. While she's working out, Robert sneaks over to her car and checks the belongings inside. After her workout, Cathy returns to the car. Robert quickly grabs the plastic ties and bag he had prepared, then gets out on foot. As Cathy searches for her keys, Robert pulls the bag over her head from behind, but Cathy manages to rip it off and screams for help. A man nearby is wearing headphones and hears nothing. Robert tapes Cathy's mouth shut and binds her hands and feet tightly with plastic ties. He then brings his car closer, shoves her into the trunk, and drives straight to his house, which is several hours away. At a red light, a police car pulls up next to him. Robert panics, but stares straight ahead. The officers don't get suspicious, and he continues on. When he arrives home, he tries to park inside the garage, but the door is broken. He props it open with a broom handle instead. Robert opens the trunk, drags Cathy out, and takes her to a hidden room he had prepared in advance. The room is concealed behind a wall, and no one but Robert knows about it. The walls are concrete, and no matter how much Cathy screams, no sound escapes. Cathy struggles to free her hands, but it's useless. Robert enters the room, ready to remove the tape from her mouth, but only if she promises not to scream. She nods in agreement, but the moment the tape comes off, she yells for help again. Realizing she's not ready to talk, Robert leaves the room. He checks his computer to ensure the hidden audio recorder in the room is functioning properly. He fills a container with water and scrubs the blood off the floor, leaving no trace. Meanwhile, Cathy finds the air vent in the room. She crawls toward it and shouts as loudly as she can. Robert loads his gun and storms back inside. He sees she's found the vent, but assures her that no one can hear her from here. Cathy offers him $50,000, all her savings, if he'll let her go. But Robert isn't interested in money.
I don't want your money.
Seeing the gun only heightens her fear. Robert asks her real name.
I want you to tell me your name.
Cathy quickly gives him one, but just as he expected, she lies. Robert leaves the room again. He decides to cook her a meal, hoping it will calm her down enough to talk. With his gun tucked behind his back, he enters the room. But Cathy surprises him. She punches him in the face, then smashes a vase over his head. Dragging herself into the living room, she finds the house phone and calls the police. But Robert fires a shot at the table, making her scream in terror. Cathy begs him to let her go. Robert approaches to drag her back into the room, but she grabs something off the table and slams it into his nose, knocking him out briefly. She grabs her cell phone from her purse, but there's no signal. She quickly finds a knife and cuts her feet free. Rushing to the front door, she tries to escape, but it's locked. Robert regains consciousness. All he asks is that she calm down so they can talk. When Cathy refuses to drop the knife, he pulls out his gun. She has no choice but to listen. Robert begins eating the meal he made, and Cathy sits across from him. Again, he asks her name. She repeats the same lie.
My name is Cathy Noland.
But this time, Robert loses his temper. He smashes his plate into her face, then points the gun at her. Cathy manages to knock the weapon aside and use her restraints against him, choking Robert from behind until he gasps for air. She crawls toward the gun, but Robert grabs her leg and slaps her hard across the face, knocking her unconscious. At that moment, a car pulls up outside. Robert quickly drags Cathy back into the hidden room. When he returns to the living room, he sees his housekeeper Alondra has arrived to clean. He had forgotten to tell her not to come today. Alondra notices the broken dishes and the bloodstains on Robert's clothes, but he tells her it's just one of those bad days and she should leave. Before going, Alondra says she'll return tomorrow with Robert's daughter. Robert cleans up the glass and decides to take a shower. Feeling a bit better afterward, he grabs his gun and heads back into the hidden room, forcing Cathy to talk. She says she was born in California, that her mother is a retired nurse, and her sister committed suicide years ago after discovering their father's affair with her best friend. Robert fires a shot into the wall right beside her head. Cathy screams. Robert asks her to start from the beginning, but this time, she has to tell only the truth. Out of fear, Cathy reveals her real identity. Her true name was Natalie. When her father left them for the same reason she had already mentioned, she decided to work at the hospital as a nurse. Robert feels proud that he was able to make her talk. He leaves the room, but collapses to the floor just outside the door. Everything that has happened feels overwhelming to him, yet now he is closer than ever to the most important part of his mission, and more terrified than before. At that moment, Cathy, who had secretly hidden her phone in her pocket, calls the police, but the signal is weak. She pushes the phone as close as possible to the air vent, and finally the call goes through. Still, the operator can barely hear her voice. All Cathy manages to say is the model of Robert's car, and then the connection drops. Robert is watching one of his old videos, back when his daughter Summer was still very little. In the video, when the phone rings, Robert becomes suspicious. He immediately searches Cathy's bag but doesn't find her phone. Panicking, he rushes into the room, checks her pocket, finds the phone, smashes it, and tosses it on the floor. Boiling with rage, Robert tells Cathy that his wife, Alana, had been mysteriously killed 4 years ago in the very same hospital where Cathy worked, along with 2 others. Robert demands to know who killed his wife. Shocked, Cathy tries to explain that there had even been a trial, but no culprit was ever identified. Robert already knew this, but the fact that Cathy moved to Atlanta after the incident made him suspicious. Cathy explains that after what happened, she was forced to start a new life. According to the autopsy report, Alana had lost her wedding ring before her death, and her blood was full of anesthetics, something that made no sense at all. Robert threatens that if he doesn't get the answer he wants, he will kill her. Robert then watches another old video from the days when his wife was still alive and they were happy together. He grows emotional and his patience to find answers runs out. He storms back into the room, presses a gun to Cathy's head. Cathy tries to calm him and tells him the truth. Alana had taken off her wedding ring because the night before she had been with another man. That same night, Alana, wearing revealing clothes, was brought to the hospital from a bar with a large amount of alcohol in her system. Robert refuses to believe his wife had cheated on him. He breaks down crying. Cathy then confesses that she was the one who killed the 3 people, and that was what Robert needed to hear. Later, Robert carefully watches one of the videos he had filmed of his wife. When Alana's phone rings, her expression changes and she quickly hangs up. Robert rewinds the tape again and again until he realizes his wife wasn't the person he thought she was. In a rage, he destroys everything in the house and then drives away. Cathy notices a cracked tile on the floor. She thinks she might be able to lift it. She tries with her bare hands, but the more she pushes, the more her hands bleed without any success. She then uses a piece of the broken phone casing to scrape away the adhesive around the tile. Robert drives to a lake he often used to visit with his wife. Just then, a police car pulls up beside his. The officers ask for his license. Robert shows it and asks what's going on. One officer says they are looking for a Dodge. Robert is forced to open the trunk, but the officers find nothing and leave. He heads back home. Cathy finally manages to pry the tile loose. When Robert enters the room, she stabs the sharp edge into his neck and repeatedly slashes at his stomach. Robert writhes in pain. Cathy seizes the chance and escapes from the room. She finds a knife and heads back toward the room to kill him. But as soon as she enters, Robert attacks her from behind. He tries to slam the door shut, but Cathy jams her hand in the doorway. Robert is forced to flee. When he finds his gun, Cathy attacks him from behind. They struggle and Cathy manages to grab the gun. At that very moment, Alondra enters the house with Summer. Cathy fires, killing Alondra, and then takes Summer hostage. Robert swears he won't tell anyone, but Cathy says she has already called the police and they could arrive at any moment. She intends to kill Summer, but Robert warns her that all the sounds in the house have been recorded, and the moment the police arrive, the truth will be revealed. Summer bites Cathy's hand. Robert lunges at her and the gun falls. He squeezes her neck so tightly that she loses consciousness. Robert searches for his daughter and finds her in one of the rooms. They try to leave the house quickly, but Cathy has vanished. Robert hurriedly puts Summer in the car when suddenly Cathy shoots him in the head from behind, but the gun is out of bullets. Robert throws her onto the car. Cathy smashes Robert's face with a brick, then attacks him with a garden fork. Robert musters all his strength, blocks her, and throws her hard. She slams into a beam holding the garage door. The door crashes down, pinning Cathy beneath it. Robert embraces his daughter. Finally, the police arrive. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you know what to do.